Hey guys, how we doing today? This morning, good morning, cup of Joe. I got my cup of Joe right here. Can you see that bad boy? It's still steaming. Today's episode 2, because I am quite tired of talking, writing stuff. Man, I really need that coffee today too. So what I'm going to do in this segment is I might pick something, but mostly I'm going to be going on to one of the writing groups that I'm in on Facebook and just picking some random questions that get asked a lot in those groups, like repeatedly, and just going to give my take on them. I like talking writing. It's my passion. I love it. I am an author. I'm currently writing my second novel of this year. Both of them have a publishing agency already, so I'm really excited. 2021 is going to be huge for me in my writing career. So, needless to say, I like to talk about things that I'm passionate about. Books, haul, writing, reading, all that great stuff. So, one of the things I see a lot in these writing groups are when people come into my work and they realize that I'm a published author. I get this question a lot. This is actually quoted, how did y'all find a publisher for your book? How do you find a publisher? There's a lot of things that if you're just starting out writing, you just don't know about. And you can fall into a lot of pitfalls. There's a lot of bad people out there trying to take your money. Yada, 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 all that kind of stuff. So, let's talk publishing. Once you've gotten your book written, you're happy with the editing, you feel like it's something that's worth money, right? That somebody will actually put $5 on to purchase and read. There's a couple of options here. The really popular route right now is just straight up indie publishing. You can use Lulu.com, Kindle Direct Publishing. Barnes and Nobles has a independent publishing company now. So there's a lot of options out there. They're all basically the same thing. It doesn't cost anything to publish on these services. They're going to get their money on a cut of whatever you charge for your book. So if you charge $10 for a physical book, and let's say it costs them $5 to print, so they're going to take $3, and then whatever you want to pay after that will be your net income. That's just a rough guideline of that. Digital's a little different. There's nothing physical to make, so you get a little bit more of a percentage when it comes to that. So let's say you charge $10 for your ebook. Maybe you get 70%, and then KDP or Lulu get the other percentage, right? There's give and take on this. Indie publishing's when done well, can do very well for the author. The problem is there's a lot of authors out there who don't know what they're doing, put out crap, and for every really strong, close to professionally as possible independent book out there's probably 50, if not even maybe 100 garbage ones. And I know that sounds rough. You're calling someone's hard work garbage, but when you see some of these books out there that people are spending money on, not realizing that they're getting a physical book with size 15 in 15 font that's like this big. There's only like 60 words per page. The margins are all off. There's never been edited. There's spelling errors on every errors on every page. They weren't taking it to that professional level, and they just sent it out there to try to get quick money. That happens a lot. The cover art looks like it was made on PowerPoint, etc., etc. So there's ways to do independent publishing to make yourself look professional. Hire freelance artists for your cover. Hire freelance editors, multiple ones. Use beta readers. Make it as professional as possible before you put it to market. Don't just write something on Microsoft Word and upload it to one of the file processors and use a random cover art that you found that you probably don't even have rights for. Just be careful with it. Now that doesn't mean you'll sell books, right, guys? Like, you can write a book, put it out for the world on Amazon, even have it available at Barnes and Noble. No one's going to buy it. No one knows it exists. So independent publishing really only works if you already have a solid fan base. Are you a social influencer who has 10,000 followers on Twitter? You get a fraction of those people to buy your book, suddenly you're sitting pretty. You're just a Joe Schmo like me, have a couple hundred people on Facebook, wrote your first book, you're expecting big deals, big paychecks, you put it out there thinking that because it's on Amazon that people will find it and buy it. Unfortunately, the business doesn't work that way. It is completely flooded with those like-minded people who think that. So, if you do independent publishing the right way, and you market yourself to have a fan base, or you were traditionally published, you already have a fan base, and you want to cut the middleman out to get more of a profit, there are some phenomenal self-published independent books out there that will blow your mind. It's just, again, for every one well-done one, there's just a whole slew of bad ones, and it's kind of left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths when you hear self-published. So break that odds, do it the right way. Go to Fiverr.com for ideas for someone to, properly set the margins right to see if anyone's out there. I pay about $200 per artist for cover art, and that's pretty cheap. I look for people locally who are trying to build up a reputation, and I offer them $200 to $300 for customized art, and boom, I have a cover. I use things like Kickstarter and those type of what are they called? Crowdfunding websites to help raise money for my books. Okay, that's how I've done it in the past, back when I was doing self-publication. So luckily, I sold well on my self-publishing first 3-4 years, and I got over 100 reviews, and I was able to stand out without a literary agent to get contracted with Black Rose Writing, who's a small, medium-sized, they are considered independent because they don't have a giant warehouse full of books that they print. They're not Penguin, right? But they're also not considered a self-pub one either. So I really, really love my publisher. They've treated me very well. My point is, the difference between the next step between a contracted author and a publishing house that's legit, and these ones that prey on authors out there. So one of the things that stresses me out the most and frustrates me is when I'm working, and again, I work at a large retail bookstore chain. Some young author comes in, eyes are just wide, bright smile because, hey, I just signed a contract. I'm so excited. My book's going to be available nationwide and blah, blah, blah. I'm really excited. They picked through me out of all these other people. And I start asking questions, and I find out it's like Doreen Publishing, or, gosh, I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. There's a slew of them out there, guys. If anyone comes to you and says, hey, we'll publish your book, but it's only going to cost X amount of hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars, that is called a vanity press. Our vanity press is bad. Most people would say, yeah, they're the devil. They're evil. They don't care about you as an author. You're nothing but a dollar sign. What do I think about that? I mean, hell, if you have $2,000 to spare to work with these guys, and you understand that they're not going to be publishing you, they're really just putting your work out there. So technically, I guess it is publishing, but they're not going to be promoting you. They don't care if your book doesn't sell. They made their money on the $2,000. On top of, maybe your book does sell a little bit, they make money on that too. They own the rights to the book. When you sign on a real contract, you shouldn't have to pay a dime for anything when it comes to editing, cover art, all that stuff. That should be done by the publisher. If you get into a really large publisher, those are the ones that are going to start saying, let's get some promotion done, and they'll pay for that promotion. Most smaller publishers, medium-sized publishers, they don't have that kind of income to be dropping, $2,000-$3,000 per author for promotion. They're going to promote on their own website, on their own social media. Good ones will maybe meet you halfway. They'll say, hey, we have some opportunities. We gave your book out to these couple places. They said that, hey, we'd love to have a showcase for this title. It costs this much, and they'll pay like half of it, something like that. That's pretty common. That's not anything you should be worried about. It's if they say, hey, we need $500 and we'll send you 5 copies of your books and give you cover art and put your book in stores. Because you can do all that yourself. You can have your book sold at Barnes & Nobles across America for free. You just click on a little check mark for expanded distribution. Doesn't even cost anything anymore. 8 years ago when I was doing it, it cost me $100 to be expanded distribution. Now it's free. It's a free option. That doesn't mean your book will be sold in stores on the shelf, but it means that people can walk in and ask and request to order it, to buy it. I promise you, if you have a book and within the first 3 days of its release, they have 10 to 15 people coming in that store asking to buy that book, that local store will order it. They don't want to lose sales, but they're not going to know it exists either. So there's part of that marketing concept. So we have independent, KDP, Lulu. We talked about those two. Barnes & Nobles has one now as well. We talked about vanity presses and the difference between vanity presses and regular presses. Your small publishing agencies, right? No matter where you live, you should have probably some local ones in your state. A lot of times they're university presses, and they're pretty small. They might only do 5 or 6 books, usually kind of literary stuff. But if you look around, you should find some pretty decent sized, again, Black Rose Writing's a good example, who accept unsolicited manuscripts. That means a non-literary agent. You don't have to have an agent for them to look at your manuscript. And so, unless you were one of the few people who landed a literary agent, you're doing awesome if you landed a lit agent. They're not easy to get. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there right now for that kind of stuff, especially with so many people writing. The slush piles are just through the roof right now. So it's even harder to even get read, even your manuscript even looked at, because if your query letter, is in rough shape and it doesn't, just like that quick, the first 2 sentences jump into their head as something they need to read, you just lost. Doesn't matter how good that book is, they're not even going to look at it. That's probably a topic for later, your query letter. I got lucky in my query letter landed me 3 contracts for my series that, again, had already sold well. I didn't even need the company at that point because I was doing so well myself. The difference is I chose the side to get published through a smaller, medium-sized publishing agency in hopes to gather interest when I do my query letters that I've been published, not just self-published, if that makes sense. So yeah, we've already hit 12. That was a little bit longer than I thought it would be to discuss the different kind of publications. You'd be surprised how many people I talk to that have no idea what a vanity press is. They have no idea how KDP works, Kindle Direct Publishing. They don't know how to get their books into stores. They don't know what an ISBN number is, right? You get an ISBN number for free when you do these things. It's the barcode on the back of the book. It always starts with 978. If you're not sure if your book's available somewhere and you've already published something, type in your barcode into the search engine of Google and see what sites pop up, because those are the sites that sell it. If you do not see your book at Barnes & Noble's website with your ISBN, it's not Barnes & Noble's issue. It's your ISBN not being available for their database records, which means you have to, somewhere you missed a step and you didn't click on expanded distribution. Even the ebook still has to be expanded distribution. In other words, if you're on KDP, you're only selling it on Amazon. I don't think you get a 978 ISBN. I think you get a 979 if it's Amazon only. These are things you should know. When you walk into a bookstore and you ask if you can get your book on the shelves, you should have your ISBN ready. You should know what that is so you can just give it to them and they can find it really easy. Because if you have a name like James White or Ronald Williamson, those are really common names, and when they try to search it, they could be spending way too much time digging through a bunch of stuff. It's, even with titles, it just doesn't work that way sometimes. So always have your ISBN handy. That'll be the easiest way to find it. So my point is, if you find, when you do your search of ISBN and you see it on the Barnes & Noble's website as a trade paperback book or a hardcover book, that means anyone in any Barnes & Noble in the nation can walk into the Barnes & Nobles and request to order that book. Okay? They won't have it on the shelves, but they can at least request them. If you do the search and it's not there, They don't have it. They can't order it. There's nothing they can do. You'd have to go back and figure out where we missed that step at. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. Some of these, you finish your book and you're really excited to get it out there. Some of the common questions, other than how do I get people to buy it, that'll be another conversation, probably on a later episode that could take up 2 hours because there's no simple code with that. But I have a lot I could talk to you guys about. I've done pretty decent for myself. Not the best by any means, but probably better than most that have started out with an independent route and got to where they're published with a legit publishing company. All right, guys, I think that's going to cover it today on this edition. A little bit longer, but it was a good topic. I hope you learned something. If anything I said doesn't make sense and you want to ask questions, please feel free to. I'll do my best to answer everything as soon as possible. Appreciate you guys watching. For those of you that have been supporting the channel in my writing career for the last 10 years, I love you guys more than words can describe. I appreciate you so much. Don't forget to share the channel and sub if you haven't, if you like what you see. Cheers. Cup of Joe right there for you. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Happy writing, happy reading, and everything in between.